Brilliance Audio presents Rules of Engagement by Joe Weber, performed by Alexander Sendies. "Phantom ball," Bailey radioed. 2.1. In the squadron ready room, located directly below the flight deck, Bailey's men watched their skipper on closed-circuit television. The pilots and radar intercept officers, sitting quietly, stared at the screen as the damaged F-4 grew larger. The tension mounted as the crippled aircraft approached the fantail of the carrier. High on the flight deck side of the island's superstructure, sailors crowded Vulture's Row to watch the tense drama unfold. They could hear the distinctive high-pitched howls from the jet engines as Bailey jockeyed the throttles to keep the ball centered. The Phantom, racing toward the end of the carrier deck, continued to spew a long stream of jet fuel. "Power," Palmer cautioned, leaning backward in the buffeting wind. "Give me a little power." Brad Austin, listening to the LSO, decided to start his turn early. He banked the Phantom to the left, twisting his head around to see the carrier. He knew that the CO was about to cross the ramp. Palmer watched the F-4 begin to settle. "Power!" The Phantom's engine shrieked as it passed over the round down and slammed into the flight deck. The tail hook caught the number 4 wire as Bailey, out of habit, went to full power in case the hook missed all 4 arresting gear cables. "Off the power!" Palmer shouted as he turned to follow the howling fighter. He could see that the F-4 had trapped. A nanosecond later, the aft flight deck erupted in a blazing inferno. The Phantom's superheated exhausts and screeching tailhook, showering sparks along the steel deck, had torched off the jet fuel pouring out of the damaged aircraft. The F-4 charged up the flight deck, stopping close to the forward edge of the angled deck. "Fire on the flight deck!" the air boss yelled over the 5MC loudspeaker. "Lay down foam!" Bailey yanked the throttles to idle cutoff and flipped off the electrical switches as the Phantom was pulled backward by the arresting gear wire. The pilot stomped on the brakes after the steel cable had fallen from the tailhook. Bailey glimpsed the pandemonium on the flight deck as he hit the canopy open switch. "Get out! Let's go, Ernie!" Austin, 3 miles behind the carrier, stared in shocked disbelief. "The deck is on fire! The skipper must have crashed!" Lunsford remained silent, leaning to his left to see the carrier through the pilot's windshield. Bailey and his RIO, about to jump over the side of the burning Phantom, were hit by a powerful stream of fire-retardant foam. The impact knocked them back into their ejection seats as the 2 hot-suit rescue personnel slapped metal ladders against the cockpits. The thick white foam covered the Phantom, but the conflagration quickly spread underneath the belly of the blazing F-4. Bailey and Sheridan stumbled down the side of the burning Phantom, then slipped and fell in the gooey foam. The rescue team, aided by 2 corpsmen, helped both officers to their feet and whisked them away to the safety of the island. Sheridan heard a muffled explosion a second before the air boss shouted over the flight deck loudspeaker. "Bring Tilly over," the commander ordered, concerned about the missiles still attached to the Phantom. "Shove the aircraft overboard." The huge yellow pushmobile lurched forward and lumbered across the flight deck. Tilly, a monstrous combination of crane and bulldozer, plowed into the fiercely burning fighter. The impact collapsed the F-4's landing gear as the aircraft slid sideways, then hung precariously over the catwalk before plunging, inverted, into the water. Foul deck, the LSO radioed to Austin. "Take it around, 207. "Wilco," Brad responded as he passed over the stern of the ship. "Did they get out?" "That's a firm, Joker," Palmer said as he surveyed the damage to the landing area. The fire had been extinguished, and the men were rapidly clearing the deck. "I'll be able to take you on the next pass." "Copy," Brad replied, then keyed his intercom. Jesus, that was close. Russ Lunsford inhaled a deep breath of pure oxygen and unsnapped one side of his mask. "Yeah, flying with you guys sure as hell is not boring." Turning downwind, Brad rechecked his landing gear, down and locked, flaps extended, and arresting hook down. He continued the approach, turned crosswind, called the ball, crossed the fantail on speed, and engaged the number 3 arresting gear cable. The F-4 screeched to an abrupt halt, then rolled back 5 feet. When the wire dropped free, Brad added power and taxied to the starboard bow catapult. He waited for the aircraft handlers to secure the Phantom to the rolling flight deck, then shut down the engines. Austin and Lunsford opened their canopies and breathed in the salty breeze. The fresh air smelled good. They sat in quiet exhaustion as curious deck crewmen pointed to the numerous bullet holes in the F-4 Phantom. Slowly removing his crash helmet, Brad watched his plane captain run across the deck toward them.